Before you drift off tonight, ask yourself this. When was the last time you truly felt safe behind a locked motel door? Was it the soft hum of the air conditioner? The buzz of a flickering neon light outside your window? Or maybe the sound of something breathing just on the other side of the wall? Tonight, you're not just listening to a story. You're checking in. But remember, simists never check out. Turn off the lights, pull the covers close, and listen carefully, because these are true motel horror stories told by those who barely escaped with their minds and those who didn't escape at all. It all started when I was 27. Tired from driving across 3 states for a funeral I didn't want to attend, and a past I didn't want to face. The road seemed endless that night, and the lights of that remote roadside motel flickered like a lifeline in the desert. A crooked sign that read "Pine Sleep In," though the E in sleep kept blinking out, which felt eerily fitting given the unease in my chest. He receptionist, a lanky, pale man with yellowing eyes, and a faded shirt that read "No refunds," barely glanced up when I asked for a room, simply slid me a key with the number 9 etched into rusted metal and muttered, "Try not to leave after midnight, or they'll think you're one of them," which I nervously laughed off, assuming it was some small-town attempt at humor, though his expression never changed. Room 9 was damp, smelled like mildew, and had wallpaper that peeled in slow curls like skin after a sunburn. And despite my exhaustion, sleep didn't come easy, not with the constant tapping sound behind the wall that seemed to match my heartbeat, or the old television that buzzed to life at 2:13 a.m., playing black and white footage of the very room I was in. Only I was asleep in the footage, and there was someone crouched near the bed, watching me. I bolted upright, heart pounding, only to find the room empty and the TV off again. Static. No footage, no proof, but the sense of being watched never left. And in the mirror, I noticed something I hadn't before. A handprint smeared across the glass from the inside, as if someone had been reaching out. Trapped the following day, I confronted the receptionist, demanding an explanation, but he only smiled thinly and said, "Some guests don't check out the usual way," and refused to say more. That night, unable to shake the growing paranoia, I drove to another town, a bigger one, with brighter lights and chain hotels. The nightmares followed, vivid and rotted, and always starting in room 9, always ending with me being dragged, screaming, into the wall. After a few weeks, I tried therapy, convinced it was just a sleep disorder brought on by grief and stress. But then a girl named Clara in my support group said something that made my blood freeze. She said she'd stayed in a motel off Route 43, one with a broken sign, and had nightmares so real they left bruises. And when she said the name Pine Sleep In, I felt a chill so deep I thought my spine had cracked in half. We compared notes, and the stories matched room 9, the handprints, the TV footage, but she'd seen something I hadn't, she said in her dream. The crouched figure whispered her name, over and over, until she woke up with her own name carved into her thigh, in perfect cursive. I didn't want to believe it, until it happened to me too, and I woke up one morning with "comeback" written in fresh, bloodied lines across my chest, but no sign of forced entry, no pain, just the raw fact of it staring back at me in the mirror, like a curse I'd inherited. Things escalated. Was on the phone that sounded like my dead mother asking why I left her there, motel receipts showing up in my mail with dates I didn't remember staying, and photos taken from angles only someone standing inches from my bed could have captured. I finally returned to the motel, desperate for answers or closure, maybe both. But when I got there, it was gone, and not demolished, just gone as if it had never been there, replaced by an overgrown field and an old fence that said "No trespassing since 1987, which made no sense because my stay had been just 3 months ago. Digging through public records got me nowhere, until an old librarian named Miss Beulah in a nearby town handed me a dusty scrapbook filled with newspaper clippings about disappearances near Route 43, all traced back to the same location, the same room, and one article that chilled me to my marrow. A story about a motel built in the 1950s that burned down in 1987, with its last registered guest being a young man named Robert, who checked into room 9 and was never seen again. His only known relative listed as a lucid grieving sister who swore he'd called her after the fire, crying, whispering, "They won't let me out of the walls." I found a number for Lucy, still alive, 87 and blind, and when I visited her in the care home, she grabbed my hand with a trembling grip and said, "You've seen them, haven't you? They come through the wallpaper when you stop believing in time." And she wept until her nurse sedated her. I don't know what they are, ghosts echoes. Something older, but every night I feel them watching, waiting, whispering in that voice that sounds like me but isn't, saying things I'm afraid to understand. Sometimes I wonder if I ever truly left that motel, or if I'm just dreaming someone else's life now, and the real me is still stuck there. Knees bleeding on mildew carpet, screaming silently while the walls close in. I've met others in chat rooms filled with survivors who talk in riddles and codes, terrified of being found, but all their stories start in that room, and none of them sleep well anymore. Not really. If you ever see a motel with a broken sign near a pine forest off a forgotten road, and they hand you a rusted key with the number 9, leave. Don't ask questions. Don't stay for the night, because whatever lives in that room doesn't just haunt, it follows. It learns your name, it learns your grief, and once you've opened that door, something inside you stays behind forever, waiting for the next lost soul to check in. If this story sent chills down your spine, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon. Backouts, the darkness never sleeps, and neither do the stories I have for you. I'll see you in the next nightmare.